Buenos días, bienvenidos al gran debate de la Ciudad de las Ideas. Señoras y señores, este año el debate tiene que ver con Facebook, tiene que ver con Twitter, tiene que ver con las redes sociales. Las redes sociales, por supuesto, tienen cosas buenas y tienen cosas no tan buenas. Pero para el propósito de este debate, la gente que contiende va a decir y va a pelear por tratar de enfatizar el blanco o el negro. Les voy a pedir que por favor recibamos con un fuerte aplauso a cada uno de los grandes contendientes y agradecerles su participación con bravos, con chiflidos, con entusiasmo, porque ustedes son parte fundamental de esta gran pelea intelectual. Tenemos gladiadores pensantes, tenemos guerreros intelectuales, tenemos luchadores mentales, personas que se encuentran en la investigación y en el campo de las redes sociales. Voy a pedir que primero pase quien se encuentre en contra y que recibamos con un fuerte aplauso porque tiene peso completo y es un gran peleador intelectual. Stephen Marche, please come in. Welcome. Stephen Marche es columnista, colaborador en artículos de opinión para las famosísimas revistas The Atlantic Monthly, The New York Times, Wall Street Journal, The New Republic. Está también y ha participado en el Toronto Star. Como ustedes verán, Stephen Marche es un gran gladiador intelectual y recibió un doctorado en la Universidad de Toronto en teatro moderno a principios de 2005. Es autor de novelas brillantes y bestsellers, tales como Shining at the Bottom of the Sea y Raymond and Anna. Un aplauso, por favor. Con quien va a pelear esta noche es también una mujer de peso completo, una persona de Turquía, gran experta en esta materia, quien está a favor de las redes sociales, Zeynep Tufekci. Welcome, Zeynep. Ella es doctora por la Universidad de Austin en Texas. Tiene como objeto central en su investigación el análisis de los efectos sociales y culturales de la computación social. Actualmente es fellow en Princeton, en la Universidad de Princeton, y es profesora asistente en la Universidad de Carolina del Norte. También es bloguera en technosociology.org, con Twitter en @techsoc. Señoras y señores, Zeynep además es interesada en la dinámica de comunidad, vigilancia y privacidad, y además analiza la sociabilidad humana en cómo la misma se unifica y suma a favor con la tecnología. Zeynep, mucha suerte, bienvenida. En contra de las redes sociales, Harfoush. Welcome, Rahaf. Ella formó en el 2008 parte de la campaña de Barack Obama como estratega. En marzo del 2009 ha comenzado a codirigir el desarrollo de la plataforma online del foro de Davos, Suiza. Está escribiendo un nuevo libro sobre el poder negativo de las gracias individuales en la tecnología. Además, Rahaf ayuda a las organizaciones a construir estrategias efectivas que generan interacción entre sus empleados, los consumidores y el público en general. Es importante mencionar que Rahaf ha escrito artículos a favor y en contra de las redes sociales. Hoy viene en su postura de en contra. Bienvenida, Rahaf. Mucha suerte. Rahaf va a pelear contra Mimi Ito. Mimi, welcome. Mimi Ito también es peso completo. Es profesora residente en la John D. Catherine MacArthur Foundation de medios digitales y además enseña en la Universidad de California en Irvine. Hace directora de investigación en Digital Media and Learning Hub. Es antropóloga que estudia la juventud en el Internet. Su último libro, Fandom Unbound, Otakin, Culture in a Connected World, ha sido un best seller. Mimi, welcome to the stage. Bienvenida, mucha suerte. Ustedes conocen este peleador, a este gladiador intelectual, socio de Poder Cívico y de Comex en el premio The Gifted Citizen. Con nosotros, Salim Ismail. Por favor, adelante. En contra, gran gladiador intelectual. Un aplauso para Salim. Salim ha pasado los últimos 4 años desarrollando Singularity University como director ejecutivo fundador y actual embajador global. Antes, para los que no lo sepan, Salim fue vicepresidente de Yahoo y construyó y echó a andar Cívico A, fundado y operado 7 compañías en etapas que incluyen conceptos pop-up. Su última campaña, Angstro, fue adquirida por nada más y nada menos que por Google, quien se la compró en 2010. Salim, good luck. Y por último, para quien le quede duda, está a favor de las redes sociales, es Randy Zuckerberg. Welcome, Randy. Seguro la conocen, es una de las fundadoras y dueñas originales de nada más y nada menos que de Facebook, fundadora y directora ejecutiva de Zuckerberg Media. Randy Zuckerberg se ha convertido en una de las referencias a nivel mundial en nuevas tecnologías e innovación. Es responsable de los mercados globales de Facebook. Trabajó en la revista Forbes. Asimismo, ha hecho multitud de apariciones en diferentes medios de comunicación, como en CNN, Good Morning America y That Today Show. Pero es importante mencionar que Randy además tiene su propio programa de televisión y que ha sido de lo más polémico. Su gran programa Gusta o Molesta. Y no lo dejen de ver en el canal Bravo, en los que tengan acceso al mismo, y se llama Startups en Silicon Valley. También está disponible en iTunes. Welcome, Randy, good luck. Voy a pedir que prendan un poquito la luz del público para explicar las reglas del juego. Señoras y señores, las reglas son muy sencillas. Los grandes gladiadores ya las conocen. Vamos a tener primero 3 peleas. La primera pelea, como las demás, cada uno de los oponentes tienen un botón. Esto no es un diálogo de sordos. Cada uno de los gladiadores tienen cerca de 2 minutos y 30 segundos. Más bien, exactamente 2 minutos y 30 segundos. Una vez que aprietan el botón, empieza a correr su tiempo. Sus pantallas se encuentran aquí. Quien está en contra tiene esta pantalla, quien está a favor tiene esta. Una vez que pasan 45 segundos, la otra persona los puede interrumpir y su reloj empieza a avanzar. El chiste es interrumpirse. El primer round le vamos a pedir por favor a Stephen Marche que pase de este lado y a Tufekci de este lado. Un aplauso para ambos. Please shake hands. The rules are clear. You have 2 minutes 30 seconds first to make your statement of purpose. Ahorita tienen que decir por qué piensan lo que piensan, por qué el señor cree que esto es malo y ella piensa que esto es bueno. El segundo round será aleatorio. Yo ya veré contra quién pongo a pelear con quién, con base en lo que yo perciba que puede ser una mejor pública para la ciudad de las ideas. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, are you ready? Good luck.
Let's go.
2 minutes, 30 seconds, press your button.
We are living pretty obviously, I think, in the greatest transformation of private life that has happened in 400 years, say. The fact that our technologies are shaping the way we communicate with each other is totally obvious no matter where you go. Yesterday, I was in Puebla Cathedral. I was going around the back where there's that beautiful painting of the Assumption of the Virgin, and I saw a string of guys looking into their phones, 5 of them in a row. We all know that this is happening, that the use that we have for communication is distracting us even from the most beautiful things around us. We live in a world with the promise of infinite interconnectivity, and yet the studies are pretty clear that we're living in a world of total loneliness and disconnection that would have been unimaginable to our ancestors. With all of these new models of socialization, all these new ways of socializing, we actually have less and less society the farther we go. And it is essential that we ask ourselves when we are going to stop and look at what these technologies are doing to us.
Well, I want to start by saying the studies are not clear that we are lonely or more isolated because of technology. In fact, if you look at every study that I have seen with a large enough sample in a scientific method, people who are connected online are also connected more offline. I agree with my opponent. Sometimes people might be distracted at times and they might not be noticing something around them. But we know that the people who are using these technologies are using them to remain connected with each other and to see each other in person, and sometimes when they're not there in person, to connect with them. And from the Arab Spring, where we've seen these technologies used to be connected, across the continent, to Facebook, where we know that we can now keep in touch with friends that we otherwise would not have been. They're keeping us connected. But you want to know what's keeping us isolated? There are things that are keeping us isolated, and we should blame them. One of them is television, and people who are online watch less television.
The studies that are pretty clear, John Cacioppo, who's the director of the Center for Cognitive Studies, did the longest study of loneliness ever. He believes that there is exactly one cure for loneliness, and that is face-to-face contact. So for him, pets and God and computers are all the same. They are monkeys creating surrogates from what they are supposed to be doing, which is talking to each other. And all of his evidence, and you go through the medical research, there are hundreds of studies by nursing groups, by social workers, by doctors, by sociologists that speak openly of loneliness as a public health crisis. We have to realize that not thinking about society, merely allowing technology to wash over us as this great tidal force, like a Hegelian spirit of history, is not working for us. It is not creating the lives that we imagine we want. No interruption.
For one thing, first, the researcher you cited, Eric Kleinenberg, who's a sociologist at NYU, contacted him. He actually disagrees with your interpretation of his work, but let's leave that. The thing is, yes, if you're using the computer to talk to a robot, you will be more isolated, you will be lonelier. But if you're using it to talk to a person, and if it makes you more likely to see them also face-to-face, then you'll be more connected. And the research says it's a world of more and more. The people we connect with online, we also connect with them face-to-face, which I agree is the bedrock of human sociality.
Well, the simple truth is that if you use Facebook to get more contact, then yes, it does increase your socialization. However, we don't use it for that. What all the studies show, loneliness is really one question, but one thing that is really clear is that Facebook correlates extremely highly to narcissism. We all know this intuitively, and it has been proven from the very first time there was studies on Facebook till last month. We are living. I'm running out of time. Facebook makes us narcissistic.
Right, so my opponent says that Facebook makes us more narcissistic, but what the study says is that if you are a narcissistic person, you're also more narcissistic on Facebook, which is basically saying people are people. It's not saying Facebook is making you, it's saying that it's letting you be who you are. And if you are using Facebook to connect with people, then you are not there's no reason that you're going to be more narcissistic. These technologies aren't these magic ones that are going to change your personality. But yeah, if you're not a nice person offline, you're probably not a nice person online. If you're a narcissist offline, you're probably a narcissist online. I don't see why we're blaming Facebook or Twitter when we should be looking at why are people narcissistic.
You have 8 seconds.
I have 8 seconds, you can applaud.
Okay.
Hold on, I'm waiting.
Last comment.
Facebook enables our narcissism.
Okay.
Lots Lots of things enable narcissism. Why is it Facebook's fault?
Un aplauso, por favor, que pelea, que mañana en el ring, en la ciudad de las ideas. Muy bien. Esto del narcisismo y Facebook. Randy, a ver qué nos comenta. Segunda pelea de la mañana, con límite de tiempo de 2 minutos 30 segundos. En contra, Harfoush, please, come here. A favor, Mimi Ito, please. Okay, Rahaf, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, go, come on, press the button.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't want to talk a lot about the interpersonal side because I know everyone here is going to cover it. I'm more concerned with the fact that we're living in a world where we're putting more and more of ourselves online. And I think it has big ramifications for things like privacy. I think it's enabling people to behave in certain ways that they wouldn't offline. We're seeing an increase in things like online bullying, identity theft, all sorts of different types of security threats. And ultimately, I think the gap isn't technology. What worries me is the fact that we right now don't understand the necessary skill sets that we're going to need moving forward to make sure that we can protect people when they're online. Specifically children, and I know that's one of the things that my opponent wanted to talk about today. In terms of legislation as well, we're looking at, I know they mentioned Arab Spring, but I'm from Syria, and let me tell you, for every person that was using the internet to organize online, the government was using those same technologies to track those people down and throw them in jail. So there is two sides to the story, and ultimately I think we really need to look at things like social etiquette and legislation and what it means to be living in a life where everything we do online can be dragged into our offline lives as well.
So I very much appreciate raising the issues around privacy and safety, but I think it's extremely important that we don't let our fears guide how we view the internet, and that we look at the internet as a space of opportunity, of information, of social connection, not a scary place that we need to back off from because we think that there's dangers out there. I think that's right. We need literacy, we need good policies, we need to manage the risks. But fundamentally, I think we have to start from the place and the realization that human connection is awesome, information is awesome. What can we do to enable young people to reap those benefits rather than shut them down because we're afraid of what they might find there? Okay, I'll keep going. I mean, from my point of view, I see the internet, online networks, social media as a tremendous opportunity for young people to learn, to develop, to access information, to gain expertise. And a lot of times, because adults have a fear of what's out there, a lot of it because they didn't grow up with the same technologies, there's a tendency for us to try to shut down and limit, not let kids take risks online, when in fact, okay.
I don't think it's about fear and shutting people down. I think it's about recognizing that there's a negative side and approaching it in a way that says, how can we continue to move forward, but do it in a way with our eyes wide open? I mean, I look at my little sister and I look at my little cousins, you know, they're 12, 13, and the amount of information they're putting online, they don't know any better, and their parents don't know any better. And so I'm not saying take them off Facebook, I'm saying add an educational component that says if you put something online when you're 14, that could stop you from getting a job when you're 21.
Yes, I know we're supposed to disagree, but I do agree on this, that it is absolutely critical to have education, to have citizenship training, to really teach kids how to be effective online participants. But I think the key to that is really to embrace participation and for grown-ups to get beyond this role that our job is to limit time, to monitor time, to keep kids away from technology, and instead say, how do you engage as an effective participant online?
I actually would not agree in that sense. I do think you need to monitor what your kids are doing online. In Canada, a few weeks ago, there was a 15-year-old girl that committed suicide because she was being bullied relentlessly online. So as a parent, I actually think it is your job to know what their passwords are and what they're doing and where they're surfing and who they're talking to until they're at an age where they can understand the differences between the types of communications that they're going to be doing online.
I think that parents need to be very cautious about the way they hover and monitor and limit. I think there are good ways of being aware and engaged with your kids' online activity, but if you're too top-down, if you don't respect their privacy, which is very important for teenagers, then they're going to find a way around it. And so I think there needs to be a shared understanding between parents and young people, which isn't just about parent always knows best in this world.
I definitely agree. I think it's a less of a, big brother approach and a more of a conversation. I mean, my parents sat me down and we had a conversation about it, and I think that was much better than them telling me what I could or couldn't do.
Ok, y un aplauso para ambas contendientes. Muy bien. Thank you very much. Señoras y señores, antes de la tercera pelea pido que prendan la luz. ¿Quién del público cree, levante la mano, grite, aplauda y fortalezca su punto de vista, que las redes sociales, claro que hacen bien y hacen mal, pero que sobre todo hacen bien y muy bien? Que griten y levanten la mano. ¿Quién cree del público que Facebook y este tipo de redes sociales pueden ser verdaderos causales de divorcio y de poner el cuerno? Que griten. ¿Quiénes creen que las redes sociales, claro que tienen sus cosas buenas, pero que por lo general hacen mal y muy mal? Señoras y señores, parece que aquí están a favor de los divorcios. Ahora es la pelea del siglo. Por favor, Salim, Ismail, come here. Randy Zuckerberg, please, to the stage. Un aplauso para ambos. Okay, Salim.
So I want to
press the button.
So I'm representing. Do I have my?
Otra vez.
So I'm representing the 50 people in the room that disagree with social media. Let's form a social network at the end of this session. We have maintained for many, many years that it's not what you know, it's who you know. And essentially we succeed or fail in the world because of who you know. Now, I'm going to argue that this is essentially a tribal mentality. Bedouins in the desert survived because they knew it was who they knew, who they could trust. If they didn't know anybody, they would chuck them out of the tribe. The Dunbar number is essentially 150 people sociologically that we know we can trust well in a close circle. And when we get past that, we form new tribes. I would argue that what social networks and social media have done is essentially amplified that capability. And I think we need to transcend that capability. Because what I know and who I know, just because I happen to know them, is not the best proxy for great ideas and for success.
First of all, I have to really admire you because you're taking an unpopular stance. Mexico is, I think, the #2 country in the world using Facebook, so holla. But I had an amazing front row seat over the past 7 years. First of all, it's so flattering to me to create something that's now a topic of debate. But I had some amazing experiences. I witnessed a young man, Oscar Morales, in Colombia using Facebook to protest FARC, where millions of people around the world came from a Facebook group to march. I've seen Facebook give a voice to people who never had the opportunity to have a voice, who never had the opportunity to speak about what they believe, and for the first time, social networks are giving people that right in the world. Okay, keep going. I've also seen huge natural disasters, events like the earthquake in Haiti. I was actually out with my husband when I got a phone call from the White House. I don't know who gets to say that except for Jack Bauer from 24. We saw the American Red Cross, the White House, using Facebook as the platform to communicate with people on the ground in Haiti because that was the only way.
So I think that's great, but what you're missing is the fact that while we're all connected, China 10 years ago took a crackdown on the Falun Gong. And if they had to do that today, they'd just look up all the members on Facebook and go kill them. And they're doing that, and governments around the world are with impunity spying and trapping all of that stuff. There's that great...
During the election in Iran, we were forced to really look at our policies at Facebook because you're right, the government was trying to access social networks. And what we found was that Facebook private messages was one of the only ways that people in Iran could communicate without government tracking.
Except the government can spy on those, so they're reduced to now using Bluetooth, which essentially is Facebook.
Except that you didn't work at Facebook, so I'm pretty sure you don't know what the government could spy on.
Our head of faculty is the futurist for the FBI, and I'm a pretty good sense of what they can spy on and what they can't.
Except we had policies where we were purging the data every 24 hours.
They can do that in real time. And I would argue for large disasters, for large disasters, it's not about the social networking, it's about the connectivity and the ability to see who's where. It's more the identity layer you want to know quickly, not who you know and why you know them.
I think you raised some definitely very interesting points. I also think, oh gosh, I'm running a lot out of time. I think you need to look at recent events like the elections that are going on in the world. 2008, you had people completely discounting what they were calling the Facebook generation. You had Hillary Clinton's pollsters going on the record saying they didn't care about the Facebook generation, and look where that happened. So I think we really have to think about people having a voice for the first time.
Well, that's all great, and that's helpful for humanity at a certain level. But what it's done right now, it's helped us transcend and amplify our old tribal natures. And I think where we need to go now is to figure out how to transcend that. What we've done on Facebook and social networks in general, not just targeting Facebook, but generally, we've essentially given a voice and amplified and reduced our connectivity. We're now liking, favoriting, etc. We're like a giant high school. And with bullying and with all the narcissism and so on, that amplifies. And we need to transcend those teenage years of social media and go above that to what really, really creates value in the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Un aplauso para los dos. ¡Qué pelea! ¡Qué mañana en la Ciudad de las Ideas! Thank you, both of you. Ahora yo voy a jugar a ponerlos a pelear con base en lo que acabo de ver. Voy a hacer primero una travesura. Salim and Rahaf, both of you are against, but you also are you also support Facebook and social media. Now, please, come both of you. Give a kiss. No, I'm just kidding. Come here. Salim, Rahaf. Un aplauso para los dos. Please here. Now you have to defend social media. Now you have to criticize social media, but against her, okay? Again. Señoras y señores, ella va a estar ahora a favor de Facebook, de Twitter y de las redes sociales. Y Salim, que se quedó con ganas de seguir golpeando, va a seguir pegándole en contra. ¿Listos? Now is your turn to begin. 2 minutos 30 segundos, please.
Okay, well, it's a little bit.
Press the button.
Press the button. Okay, so I'm just going to build on the excellent arguments that Randy made. I do think that the tribal nature is a very interesting concept because one of the biggest advantages that social media is having is that it's letting us transcend things like proximity and geography, and instead it's letting us build groups of people together that are motivated by the same values, by the same beliefs, by the same interests. And that's very powerful, especially if you're in a rural town and maybe you believe in something that is a minority position. Maybe if you're a young gay youth in a very rural conservative town, suddenly you have access to a portal where other people can support you. So I do think it's a great way to gather people sort of in the age of the internet, where we're building groups that aren't defined by borders anymore. But that being said, I also think the great thing is, as Randy mentioned, is keeping in contact with other people. I have my grandfather in Syria, my best friends in Ireland, I've got lots of friends in Canada, and without social networking, I would have lost all of those people.
So first of all, just an acknowledgement for having to flip to the other side of the debate. I can't imagine how you do that. But you're wrong. When you want to connect to other people, that's essentially Skype. That's not social networking or social media. That's peer-to-peer communications. I would also argue that, thank you.
But I don't actually, Skype is an example. I'm a big fan of Facebook messages. I'm a big fan of WhatsApp. I'm a big fan of Twitter, which are also primary ways that I use to connect with the people in my life. Still keep going? It's still my time? So, okay. So I do think that research that I've seen have shown that just that connectivity, getting a text, does have an emotional impact, does increase the dopamine level, does help you become happier. If you're in a meeting and...
So, the dopamine side of things is the thing that keeps us trapped in that layer. And I think that's something we have to really think about. You mentioned the connectivity and the loneliness. In Stephen's article, he cites research that shows that we are now, 50 years ago, only 10% of households in America were single-person households. Today, 30% of people live on their own. And we live in a bubble, trapped and addicted to the social media craze, and everybody gets into that mode and then they can't get out of it. And I think we need to get out of that mode and get past all of that. So we could keep, nice one. That was my strategy. So we need to get out of that mode, and we need to find the tools that really get us face to face. We're all here. We're not connecting on a social media. We're all here because the face-to-face communication is what makes us human. And I think social media is great in amplifying that, but that's what we need to do.
I know, but I think that all of these tools, as long as they help us become more human, it's not a bad thing. I mean, people used to send faxes, and we don't do that anymore. They used to send letters, and I mean, I don't know, I don't really get letters anymore. But if I can use Facebook to continue to maintain that relationship, I don't think that takes away from my humanness. I think it adds another dimension to it, which is something that we should be exploring.
Yeah, but what about the privacy implications of putting all of that stuff online? No, I'm just kidding. So,
No, the privacy thing is what I've always argued is if you are going to use these tools, if you are going to use Facebook, if you are going to use Twitter, then it is your responsibility to educate yourself on what data is being collected about you and what's being done with it.
Yeah, but if you're a 12-year-old, you don't have the wherewithal to have that sophistication of understanding. And we're leaving it to the social networks, and governments are essentially spying. So who's acting as the honest arbiter and the proxy for where this is all going? That's what we don't understand. And frankly, until we can develop that, I think we need to be very careful as to what we manage and how we put all of our relationships online for everybody and anybody to see. Thank you. So I'll keep going. If we can't find and develop the tools to manage, essentially social medias and what we're doing with social networking, essentially it's serving as a proxy for trust. And essentially we're building tools because I know Stephen or I know Randy that I can rely on that restaurant. But we should have better mechanisms for the proxy for trust and identity, and then essentially social networks get transcended and we don't need them anymore.
I just think that ultimately the tool itself is neutral. It's like being against social networks is being against fire. You can use fire to heat your house, you can use fire to burn down a house, and I think it's much more interesting to look at the intent that's driving the choices that we're making with this technology rather than just blaming the technology itself as being a problem. I think that's my point. I don't have any there. My time is up.
So the technology is neutral, but we need to be a bit more responsible. And what we found with social networks and social media is we descend into a primitive state.
Se terminó el tiempo. Un aplauso para los dos. Muy bien. Ok, ahora le voy a pedir que suba al estrado de este lado. Stephen, please come here. Randy, please come here. Otra vez, vamos a ver el segundo round. Dense la mano, shake hands. No personal attacks. Golpe al cerebelo, vamos. Luchadores mentales. Now it's your turn to begin, okay?
Okay.
2 minutos y medio a favor de las redes sociales. Can I make you to talk against social media?
No.
Okay. Ni modo, hice el intento, pero bueno.
You have to try.
Too many people videotaping.
Señoras y señores, un aplauso para los peleadores. Randy Zuckerberg a favor de Facebook. Apriete el botón.
Thank you.
Press the button.
Okay. So my opponent started his last debate talking about loneliness and how social media makes us more lonely. So I want to start by telling a personal story. About a year and a half ago, I had my son, one of the great loves of my life. His name is Asher. And thank you. And when I worked at Facebook, we saw some really fascinating stats that it was new moms that were the most engaged online. And I really learned this firsthand. Having a baby is really hard. There were moments that were really, really hard. There were late nights by myself, and you can't always pick up the phone and call someone or visit someone at 3 o'clock in the morning, but there was always someone on Facebook to talk to. There was always someone on Twitter with some advice or some encouragement or a helping hand.
Look, you can cherry pick stories about how Facebook improved your life all over the place. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that nothing good has ever happened on Facebook. But I mean, let's go right to the heart of the matter. Let's go to the Arab Spring, okay? Facebook is changing the world, and it's going to transform this region. What did it transform? It provided this immense connectivity and absolutely no consensus. It did not provide. What it provided was the veneer of hope. The veneer of this optimism of interconnectedness, which actually turns out to be completely fraudulent in the end and leaves us all high and dry, trying to figure out how we should actually deal with each other. And I think, you know, there is this, the three of you are with me, I see. But we are the important ones. I just think we have to get away from this naivety about this technology. I mean, when I hear these stories about, you know, it depends how we use it. When television came out, people said, this is going to be the greatest technology in the world. We're going to educate people with it. We're going to have people taking German courses on television. It's all going to be PBS. It's all going to be magnificent. And what did it turn out to be? It turned out to be the Kardashians. Now, this is not the fault of television. And nor is Facebook, you know, nor is the fact that Facebook is mostly for exchanging pictures of cats.
Now, I am a reality television producer now, so thank you very much for that lovely nugget that you had. And I'm not even going to go into the pros and cons of reality television, because I do believe that being entertained and having fun is also a very important part of the human spirit. So taking away everything else, Facebook is a fun place. You go and you see photos.
I'm sorry, I mostly spend it stalking people. I mean, I don't think Facebook is always, I mean, the study from Moira Burke,
Remind me not to Facebook friend you after this then.
But I do have to say, the study from Moira Burke says that if two women are talking on the phone and one of them's looking at Facebook, the one on Facebook gets more depressed. I mean, that is in the study. Like, it does lead, it is not fun. It is, like all narcissism, a combination of self-love and self-loathing. And it enables that, it technologizes it. It makes it explicit. And I mean, part of that's why it is such an important thing. It is as important as, you know, what we heard yesterday about grafting skin with computer. I mean, it is very vital because it's changing what we think of as social.
So I want to take this in like a slightly different direction too, because we could debate this all day, and I want to talk about the arts for a moment. I want to talk about what social media has done to democratize the arts, because that's something, again, as a television producer, that's very important to me. You start to look at sites like Kickstarter, which enable, through social means, funding for projects that never would have been created before. You're starting to see movies that would have required a studio to fund them that now can be funded by anyone in this audience. People with a dream to create something can now be fulfilled through social media in a way that never existed. So I do think that social media is a place for fun. It's a place for dreams. It's a place for inspiration and creativity. And you know what? If you don't have fun on there, it is optional. You don't have to be on Facebook. There are 1 billion people in the world who choose to use social networks, but it is completely optional, and no one should do anything that they don't have fun doing.
Well, I mean, obviously, you know, the situation is very complex, and although we're taking very contrary positions, it's obvious that Facebook has uses that are magnificent. I mean, I sort of feel like, you know, people will say, you know, I'm talking about pollution, and people will say, well, the ambulance drove me to the hospital and saved my life. I mean, Facebook obviously has great uses. It's just that in general, it has social consequences that we have not dealt with, that are general and vague and need to be thought through very clearly.
Se terminó el tiempo, un aplauso, por favor. Quiero que prendan la luz un segundito, por favor, a la producción. Y le quiero preguntar al público, ¿quién antes de este debate, si estaba a favor de Facebook y redes sociales, ahora probablemente han cambiado un poco de opinión? Que griten y alce la mano. ¿Quién de aquí que antes estaba en contra, a lo mejor ha cambiado de opinión? Que grite, aplauda y alza la mano. Señoras y señores, ¿quién cree que este lado es el ganador? ¿Quién cree que este lado es el ganador? ¿Quién va a dejar de tener Facebook si creen que este lado es el ganador? Falso, aquí hay paleros. Bueno, Mimi, please come here, say it also. Lo que le voy a pedir a cada uno de los participantes ahora es que tienen 1 minuto y 30 segundos para el knockout, para decir su último comentario, para cerrar esta gran mañana, esta pelea. You have 1 minute 30 seconds just to say the last word of whatever you think. Okay, it's your last statement. Okay, you please. Conclusions, Bas.
Okay. I want to start by correcting one thing. Everybody keeps trying to argue, all our opponents, that it's either Facebook or face-to-face. Let me repeat again. People who connect on Facebook are more likely also to connect face-to-face. This is true for all social media. It is not replacing one, it is supporting one. This is the biggest misunderstanding, I think, that leads people to think it's isolating you. And let me also come back to the idea that the Arab Spring was nothing. Well, I did a lot of my research last year. I've been in Tahrir Square, I've been in Tunisia, I have been in Beirut, you know, talking with Syrian dissidents, and it is absolutely true, and we have research showing this, that the dictators try to isolate people. And the best way to get people is if there are few of them. If there's 150 people in Tahrir Square, you can arrest every single one of them. If there's 1 million people in Tahrir Square, you can have all the names you want. There's nothing you can do about that. So I want to emphasize that being able to connect is the best protection against the things like the surveillance and the repression dictators employ on their people. So there's a lot to go, but human connectivity is the way that we both support our face-to-face interactions and also our political
Knockout,
goals.
muy bien. Turn.
So I'd like to start just by restating what I think is the most important thing, and I think everybody in this room recognizes, pro or con, in this debate, which is that these new tools for social connection have given us a lot of opportunity to do really amazing things, to connect with others, to gain knowledge, to overcome the boundaries of space and time in really important ways. But I also want to stress, because I had to take the pro side, that it's also important that we do whatever we can to make these uses of these new technologies productive for people, tied to learning for young people, not just about hanging out with our friends and doing the same old thing, but really trying to make our relationships stronger, to make the world a better place, to make kids learn better in more sophisticated ways. So they're not just using Facebook to get popular and look good to their friends and try to get a date, but they're learning things. They're connecting with other people who share interests that drive them towards knowledge and expertise. And I think what's critical to this better world with social media is that we develop our own sense of responsibility and citizenship, but that we also hold companies, governments, the public sector in a variety of forms accountable to using these technologies, developing policies to develop uses of these technologies that make the most of the opportunities that we have.
Un aplauso, por favor. Ladies and gentlemen, señoras y señores, estos guerreros intelectuales, gladiadores mentales, sin duda alguna, además, amigos, un aplauso para todos ellos. Esto fue la ciudad de las ideas, la gran batalla. Thank you, everybody. Muchas gracias.